If you clicked this video thinking, oh fun, a nice little character analysis, you're not ready. This is not a character analysis, this is a full autopsy on every single romance option in Baldur's Gate 3. I'm bringing receipts with scorecards and an unreasonable amount of opinions. We're doing deep dives on character development, plot integration, reactivity and branching, physical chemistry, emotional intelligence, consistency and thematic cohesion, plus presence and runtime. Every single one of those is getting scored out of 10, and then we're mashing all that together and slapping a tier on them from S down to F. We're also covering expectations versus reality. Because let's be honest, half of you thought you were getting one thing and ended up with emotional whiplash. That's just what happens playing a Larian game. I'll be calling out real red and green flags based on in-game behaviour, and yes, we're even covering how they interact with a Dark Urge playthrough. Because some of you are in fact unhinged little bastards, and I respect that. They have their own sections, nothing is getting left out. But if we hit a romance option that's basically 2 scenes with a fade to black, those are getting compiled together into a speed round. Because I'm not doing an hour-long essay on a character whose entire romance arc is, you talk to them twice and fuck them once. Some of these deserve dissertations, others deserve a bullet point and a shrug. We're even doing the side piece degeneracy. Even if you've been firsting over a named NPC for exactly 4 lines and a wink animation, we'll get there. Everything is getting covered. We're starting with Shadowheart, the goth cleric, the poster child for I built my whole personality around an abusive religion. The woman who will judge your moral choices, steal your wine and make you work so hard for a single crumb of affection that by the time she finally opens up, you feel like you've earned a degree in emotional archaeology. So, grab a drink. Maybe 2. Let's talk about Shadowheart. And credit where is due. Larian could have just made hot goth cleric with trauma and gone home. But no. They built an entire therapy campaign disguised as a romance route, like the overachieving sickos they are. Love that shit. Let's get into character development. She starts the game as a secretive, emotionally constipated Shar worshipper with half her memories and a full tank of repressed feelings. Over 3 acts, she gets the fun job of choosing between staying in Shar's never-ending abuse subscription service, switching to Selûne's aggressively wholesome have you tried not being sad aesthetic, or this mad concept where she gets to be a person with opinions and isn't just a divine chew toy. Her romance is welded to that journey. If she lets herself love you, it's not because you rolled a 20 on persuasion. It's because she's already internally decided, maybe I'm not just Shar's murder puppy. Maybe I actually deserve nice things. Like this idiot who keeps letting me adopt every animal we find, even though we're supposed to be technically saving the world. What priorities though? You are not her fixer, you are not her saviour, you're the person standing nearby while she does the work herself and then goes, huh, you're still here? Interesting. Okay, maybe you get to stay. You can feel the writers flexing here too. This isn't the usual Act 1 bitchy, Act 2 horny, Act 3 married pipeline. They actually let her be wrong, petty and annoying before she earns the growth. That's grown-up storytelling, not just horny fan service. She does not leave bad situations for you, she leaves them for herself. And you're the proof she made the right call. It's a masterclass in character development. 10 out of 10, no debates. Shadowheart isn't just a side quest staple to the main story. She is the story. The Nightsong? Oh, that's her plot. The Temple of Shar? Hers. The Shar versus Selûne cosmic custody battle? She's the kid. Both gods are terrible parents, and frankly, they should have their god privileges revoked. The absolute cult is just Shar's abusive playbook, with no branding. Both cults use memory manipulation, demand total obedience, and strip away your identity until you're just a meat puppet with a job description. Shadowheart is the thematic spine of what happens when gods treat people like unpaid interns. If you ignore her story, you are missing out on about half the emotional architecture of Baldur's Gate 3, and the answer to why does every authority figure in this game suck so fucking much. From the moment you wake up with brainworms, she's there whispering Shar's propaganda, carrying a literal hand wound that acts like a divine ankle monitor. I mean, that thing flares like a car alarm every time she thinks the wrong thought. By the end, depending on your choices of course, she can be living a soft cottagecore life with her parents and a small zoo's worth of adopted animals. Or she's being a solo adventurer who still sends you letters because she's soft now. It's all your fault, and we love her for that. You are not starved for goth girlfriend content. The game is basically drowning you in it. She even changes her hair and dyes it white when she reclaims her identity. Because, even in fantasy, sometimes healing looks like, book the salon, I'm done culting now. Time for a new me. This is where you see the quest team showing off. Every temple, every trial, every single moment is doing double duty for plot and romance. It's disgusting how efficient it is. I respect it. Yes, you're doing the equivalent of a relationship obstacle course whilst also fighting mind flayers. But honestly, watching her go from divine murder goth to I adopt animals now and will fight you if you're mean to them. Absolutely fucking worth it. Look, I wanted to give this a 10. I really did. But then I remembered the emotional labour could pay a therapist's mortgage. However, she is woven so deeply into the narrative that ignoring her plotline is like playing The Witcher, but skipping all the parts with Ciri. I mean, you could do it, but why would you voluntarily make yourself dumber? She's getting a 9, and the 9 isn't a penalty. It's acknowledgement that perfection would require zero effort, and this romance makes you earn every single inch of progress. That's what makes it great. You're not handed a trophy girlfriend. You're given a person who's actively rebuilding herself, and you get to be there for it. So, yeah, 9 out of 10. Not because it's flawed though, but because it's real. We're on to reactivity and branching now. So, sparing or killing the Nightsong isn't just a morality checkbox. Oh, no. It is a personality bomb. Killian. That's Shadowheart's ultimate act of devotion to Shar. She becomes the perfect weapon. Colder, sharper. Emotionally available as a no trespassing sign. Sparing? That's the moment she finally chooses mercy over indoctrination. She picks people over prophecy. That's basically Shadowheart's entire personality doing a hard reboot. That choice completely rewires who she is, how she loves you, and even how she holds herself at camp. Convince her to walk away from Shar instead of doubling down? Completely different girlfriend unlocked. If you help her reconnect with her parents, you've unlocked the family dinner epilogue, where she's somehow even more of a wine snob because now she's got parental validation. Shar's devoted Shadowheart though, she stays distant. Even when she loves you, there's this chilling detail of Shar literally making her forget things about you to prove loyalty. Love becomes something she has to sacrifice to stay fucking holy. You know, normal healthy relationship stuff. Hey babe, remember that time we... No. That's not a romance arc, that's a divine fucking restraining order. You're not her boyfriend. You're her emotional cheat day that her narcissistic goddess keeps deleting from her brain. You are porn getting yeeted from her browser history. For each Shadowheart though, different person. She's warmer, playful, capable of smiling without resting bitch face. She will roast your garbage tactical decisions in combat and then try to kiss you about it like that somehow compensates for watching you try to solo a pack of gnolls with 9 HP. Oh, you are an idiot. Objectively. Demonstratively. I've watched you make decisions, but you're my idiot now, which means I'm obligated to keep you alive, despite your best efforts to the contrary. There will be no refunds. There are no exchanges, and if you die stupidly, I'm resurrecting you just to kill you myself. Cleric privileges. And then there's the swimming scene. Shar conditioned her to fear water, and she just believed it for 40 years. Not like, oh, I dislike swimming. Shar installed learned helplessness into her muscle memory. Your body will betray you. You will drown. Do not try. When she finally learns to swim, it's not just cute, right? It's her first unsupervised act of joy. No God's permission, no hidden agenda, just, I can do something Shar told me I couldn't do. I kinda like it. She will insist it's tactical. She will absolutely say, this is purely practical. I'm not having fun. These are just tactical aquatic maneuvers. Stop perceiving me! But that's the point. We're watching someone reclaim their body from a goddess who turned it into company property. One doggy paddle at a time, whilst probably still insisting that she's not that into it despite clearly having the time of her life. She cares what you do. She will judge what you do. This is not a smile and nod whilst you kick Puppy's partner, okay? This is, I will pack my fucking shit, take my fucking owlbear cub, and leave your evil arse, partner. Her moral backbone was always there. The story just finally lets her use it without getting a divine detention, and honestly, we love her for that. I would love to give this a 10. The branching is honestly fucking phenomenal. The consequences are real, and the emotional payoff is devastating in the best way. It's just that acknowledging that sometimes the game makes you do a lot of emotional labour to unlock the good ending, and occasionally you're sitting there going, babe, I love you, but could you please just tell me what's wrong instead of making me play 4D chess with your fucking trauma responses? So yeah, 9 out of 10. But let's be real, a 9 out of 10 is still would die for her territory. And shout out to whatever unhinged spreadsheet goblins at Larian who wired all this together. Because someone had to sit there going, okay, if you spared the Nightsong, hugged your parents, and didn't kick every dog that Shadowheart sees, she will say this one specific devastating line. That's not just good writing. That's kink level flowcharting. Time for the physical chemistry. Shadowheart does not open the game ready to peg you by the campfire, okay, right? She barely opens the game ready to make eye contact at all. Early on, romance with her feels less like flirting and more like applying for a job. You flirt. She side-eyes you like you're a door-to-door salesman trying to sell her vulnerability. Every conversation is a test because Shar spent decades training her to think pleasure was a divine felony. Physical intimacy isn't just scary for her. It's heresy. Pleasure is a trap, affection is weakness, her body is goddess-owned real estate, she is renting. Then when she finally lets you in, it's like watching permafrost melt. Slow, agonising, requires the patience of a saint and the emotional endurance of someone who's really into delayed gratification. Because our girl needs the quiet certainty that you're not going anywhere. That is her reclaiming her own desire. Actually, I'm allowed to feel good now. Fuck you very much. The path you push her down changes everything about that chemistry. Shar route. She can be physically intimate and still feel emotionally distant. She's going through the motions, checking the boxes, half braced for Shar to show up like cosmic HR.
Actually, I think you'll find you're not authorized for happiness. That's a policy violation.
And she's right. Shar does literally make her forget intimate moments with you as petty revenge, because healthy relationships are just Shar's kryptonite. As for the freed route, she's present, she initiates, she teases you, she's affectionate in a way that doesn't feel like she's waiting for a divine audit. This is one of the few romances where later intimate scenes actually hit harder than the first. Because you earn them. You watch someone go from touch is a crime to I want this, and I'm allowed to want things now. So fuckle up, lover. I've got making up to do. This romance is slow burn in the truest sense. There's other companions that hit you with the Act 1 horny and then coast on vibes. Shadowheart makes you wait. Not because she's playing hard to get, but because she is learning in real time that joy is not a punishable offence. So when those later scenes finally arrive, they don't just feel hot, they feel victorious. The chemistry is fucking phenomenal, right? But it requires the emotional stamina of a triathlon athlete and the patience of someone who's really into watching paint dry. Early game, you are not getting spicy campfire scenes. You're getting, did you just try to hold my hand? Absolutely not. Shar is watching, I think. Probably. She might smite me for unauthorised hand-holding. You spend so much time doing emotional archaeology that by the time you actually get to the good stuff, you're basically a qualified therapist. The payoff though? Incredible, do not get me wrong, but there's a reason this romance comes with a slow burn warning label. But when it does pay off, when she finally lets you in and stops acting like affection is criminal, worth every second. Physical Chemistry's final score is an 8 out of 10. It would have been a 9, but I'm docking a point because for the first half of the game, Shadowheart feels like you're trying to seduce a bitchy cactus. Theoretically possible, but you're going to need band-aids. Emotional intelligence. Early Shadowheart has the emotional availability of a DMV employee. We all know this. Her communication style is sarcasm, side-eye, and passive-aggressive wine reviews. Conflict style? Deflect, 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 then bite. By the end, if you pull her out of Shar's gravity well, she actually apologises when she hurts people. Her apologising. She admits she's scared instead of just glaring harder. She sets boundaries without turning vulnerability into a crime scene. She goes from, my abusive goddess is my whole world, to, I contain multitudes now, including the capacity to love you. Don't fuck her up. The identity stuff is brutal but brilliant. Shadowheart is just her cult-issued hot topic alias. Her actual name is Genevo Hallowleaf, stolen, along with her childhood and family, buried under Shar's branding, which adds a whole new layer of Shar being a straight-up corpo.
Your name? Oh, that's company property now. Hand it over.
When she reclaims that name and shares it with you in private, that's not just cute. That's her saying, you get to know the version of me that existed before the cult. It's intimacy as identity restoration. They're rebuilding a family from factory settings. It's a group recovery project. Biological family plus found family choosing to fix what a goddess shattered. And that hand wound? That is not symbolic guilt. That is pain as enforcement. It flares when she doubts Shar. It punishes her for unauthorised hope. It turns her body into a literal shock collar. Controlling doesn't even fucking cover it. And when you help her break free from Shar, it goes away. The game doesn't just tell you she's free. It literally edits out the divine taser from her flesh. And the camp notices. Companions comment on how different she is. Jaheira's basically like, thank the gods, she blinks now. The narrative doesn't just hand wave her growth, it patch notes her soul in front of everyone. Everyone around her watches her transform from surviving under a divine microscope to actually living. And honestly, watching the whole camp collectively go, yay, she's finally a person now. It just hits different. I'm giving this score a bit of a range, okay? Because Shadowheart's emotional intelligence is basically a live software update, right? Early game. She's about a 4 out of 10. She's got the emotional capacity of a brick wall. Her conflict resolution strategy is deflect, deny, drink fucking wine, okay? Late game. If you free her, 8 out of 10 easy, no debate. She apologises. She communicates. She sets boundaries without making you feel like you just triggered a divine audit. She's basically unrecognisable from the person who spent Act 1 giving you the side eye for existing too loudly. So yeah, 4 out of 10 to begin with, but it ends up landing as an 8 out of 10. The character development is doing all the heavy lifting here. And fair play to Larian. They actually let her trauma be messy. There's no magical, you healed me with your dick cutscene, just slow, awkward, sometimes infuriating progress. Like the writers have actually met a real person before. It would have been a 9, but I'm deducting a point because there were moments where I wanted to just grab her and shake her like, babe, please, just use your words instead of making me fucking decode emotional Morse code. Consistency and thematic cohesion. So, Shadowheart's romance isn't supplementary to the main plot. It is the central narrative thread that ties together identity, trauma, and liberation. The core question is simple and devastating. What does it mean to become a person when you were raised to be a weapon? Everything about her root feeds that question. The hand wound that punishes her for doubt. The arrest name and family. The will she fears because Shar weaponised a childhood trauma, the Noblestalk Mushroom Memory Fragment in the Underdark, the Nightsong Decision in the Shadowfell, her dynamic with Lizelle, another woman raised by a tyrant god figure, and the Act 3 dream of opening an animal sanctuary. It's all one story! I was built to serve a god! Do I get to exist as anything else? The game doesn't just say yes and roll credits, it shows you. The mark Shar gave her is a built-in taser for unauthorised feelings. Gone if you free her. The entire camp notices she's not walking around like goth Eeyore anymore. Lizelle either becomes a mirror of her freedom or a tragic contrast if she stays loyal to Vlaakith, which is just chef's fucking kiss writing. And Shadowheart goes from divine hitwoman to I want to run a petting zoo and care for things on purpose. She doesn't just swap one god for another. She does not trade Shar for you. She trades divine control for personal agency, and you just happen to be the emotional support idiot she's practicing vulnerability on while she figures out what the hell that even means. Freed Shadowheart mentions potentially opening an animal sanctuary. Let that sink in. She's spent 40 years as a murder cleric and now wants to run a petting zoo. That's not just character development. That is a full personality respec. She's out here like, I used to delete people for a goddess, and now I hug baby cows. Fight me. She's out here, bottle feeding an owlbear cub whilst wearing all black, cooing at it in baby voices she will deny under any oath ever, all while acting like you're the weird one. She's standing there, head to toe in darkness going, what? I'm still intimidating? Whilst carrying a squirrel in her pocket. Ma'am, you're not fooling fucking anyone. This is a perfect 10 out of 10, and I'm not being generous with it. Shadowheart's romance is not a bunch of cute scenes duct taped to a character. It is a thesis statement that the entire game commits to with the focus of a DM who's been planning this reveal for 6 fucking months. Every single beat. The Handwind, the Erased Name, the Nightsong Altar, the Wolves, the Noblestalk Memory, the Lizelle Pararetto, the Act 3 Animal Sanctuary Dream. All of it, just all of it, right? It feeds into the same core question of what does it mean to become a person when you are raised to be a weapon? There is no wasted narrative fat here. Every story beat, every companion interaction, every choice you make with her, it all loops back to the central arc. It's devastatingly cohesive. So yeah, a 10 out of 10, would have given it an 11, but the scoring system doesn't go that high. It is straight up goddamn perfection. It's time for expectations versus reality. Let's talk about what you thought you were actually getting versus what actually happened. Because if you went into this thinking you just picked the hot goth cleric, you fucking played yourself. Expectation. She's going to be my mysterious goth girlfriend who'll dramatically stare at the moon, drop her tragic backstory in perfectly timed whispers, and then we'll have one of those slow-mo hand-holding moments in the rain while sad violin music plays. We're just so fucking dark together. The reality. If you romance Shadowheart, you have a type, my friend. That type is emotionally unavailable goth in dark lipstick with more knives than coping skills, whose trust issues are visible from fucking orbit, and you looked at that and said, yes, wife. Shadowheart mains think they're signing up for, I can fix her. What they're actually signing up for is, I want to watch someone have the world's most devastating existential crisis in 4K, whilst I sit in the corner with popcorn and a foam finger saying, go therapy. While she has a full meltdown, realising her entire personality was a cult rebrand. And then, after she's done with all that, she turns to you and says, you're still here. That's weird. You're either incredibly patient or incredibly stupid. Either way, want to make out about it? You get a partner who will absolutely roast your choices, trust you with basically nothing important for 2/3 of the story, spend more time flirting with competing deities than with you, and has a built-in divine taser that zaps her every time she feels something Shar didn't pre-approve. Just normal fucking girlfriend stuff, I guess. My queen, I will patiently stand here whilst you burn your religion down and rebuild your life from scratch. Also, please step on me a little. You absolutely want the mean to everyone, soft for me trope. You want her to spend 2 acts basically being bitchy to the entire camp. rolling her eyes at Gale, threatening Astarion, judging wine choices, then glance at you, and accidentally let that one soft smile slip. That's the drug. That's the hit. You're not here for generic romance. You're here for the first time she lets you see Geneville instead of Shadowheart. Somewhere in Act 3, after the cult, the altar, the murders, and the emotional breakdowns, she basically asks, if all the Shar stuff goes away, if I'm not chosen anymore, would you still want me? If that line hits you in the heart, well done. You did not want to fix her. You wanted front row seats to her choosing herself, and you wanted to be the person she realises is still there when the smoke clears. You are her accomplice in divine treason that she accidentally fell in love with. You two absolutely committed what is, legally speaking, several religious hate crimes and called it a day. She went from professional murder cleric to cat mum. And honestly, that's one of the most beautiful self-discovery arcs I've ever witnessed. You're the person she chooses after finally getting to choose anything. For 40 years, every decision was made for her. What to believe, what to forget, who to kill, what to feel. And after all that, after burning down her entire religion and rebuilding herself from scratch, she looks at you and goes, yeah, this one. I want this one. You're not the hero who saved her. You're the person who was just there, being annoyingly patient while she figured her shit out. And now, you're the first choice she's ever made that was actually hers. You win. You've won the slowest, most emotionally devastating game of chicken in Faerun. And that's everything. On to the flags. Green flags first. First green flag. She actually does the work of deprogramming herself. You're not dragging her out of the cult by her ankles. She's googling, is my deity toxic, on her own time. And she's coming back like, so, you were right. When she hurts people, she owns it. There is no Shar made me do a cop-out. She apologises, changes behaviour, and takes responsibility for the harm she caused under Shar's influence. Just straight up accountability. That's rarer than a natural 20, and frankly, sexy as hell. If you're a Dark Urge resisting Baal, she becomes your trauma twin. You've both got murder gods riding shotgun in your skulls. You both know what it's like to have your body hijacked for violence. That creates an intimacy no normal campful or can touch. You become trauma-bonded disaster partners in divine resistance. Oh, you've got a murder god using your brain as rental property. Same bestie. Twinsies! She actively rebuilds a life centred on care. Her entire personality arc is going from Shar is literally everything to, wait, I think I like stuff now. Like animals. And this incredibly patient gunner I'm dating. She lets you use her real name, Geneville, in private. This is not just romantic. That is sacred. You are being trusted with the version of her that existed before the cult branding. Post-healing. The protective energy goes both ways. She stops being the project you're worried about and becomes an equal partner who will absolutely throw hands with a god for you. You're not her emotional support animal anymore. You're her ride or die, and she's yours. The Act 3 swimming scene. This is her first, totally guilt-free joy moment in 40 years. Watching her laugh in the water, just because it feels good, is one of the most quietly devastating payoffs in the game. Bring tissues. Maybe a floaty. On to the red flags. Let's be honest. Early game Shadowheart is that woman. The one a therapist would high-five you for finally blocking. Apologies sold separately. For at least one arc, if she hurts you, she doesn't talk about it. She just glares, drinks more wine, and assumes you'll figure it out. Actual accountability only unlocks once you've completed the Deprogram My Cute Girlfriend DLC. And here's the sick part. All of this kinda works, because it's written too well. You're not supposed to go, wow, goals. You're supposed to go, oh god, I dated this person. Never again. And then Larian tricks you into falling for her anyway. First flag. Bitchy by default. Her resting state is annoyed you exist. She will cut you down in front of the whole camp and then act confused. when you don't feel all warm and fuzzy. If you push her fully down the Shar devotion route, you are not in a sexy dark romance. You are in a fucking religious horror story. Love becomes synonymous with loss. Suffering is framed as intimacy. She is religiously obligated to emotionally distance herself from you. If that's your ideal romance, I'm not judging. There is no kink shaming here. I'm just suggesting that maybe you unpack that somewhere not moderated by a murder goddess. Shar loyal Shadowheart plus an evil playthrough turns your relationship into a codependent cult couple. You're not partners, you're brand ambassadors for misery. Well, maybe that's what some of you want. She remembers everything you do and will absolutely bring it up later. That squirrel you murdered in Act 1, enjoy hearing about it in Act 3. Interesting that the man who butchered Mr. Nibbles thinks he can lecture me about morality. Last flag. She will judge your decisions, moral, tactical and aesthetic. This is not a yes dear companion. If you want a validation machine, romance someone else. Trust issues? From fucking orbit. Vulnerability's a felon in her book. Instead of saying, I'm scared, she just goes quiet, gets sharper, and makes you guess which landmine you just stepped into. On to the Dark Urge playthroughs, and I know some of you sick little puppies have been looking forward to this one, so without further ado, the Dark Urge and Shadowheart is one of the best narrative mirrors in the game, I'm not even kidding. You are both walking around with murder gods living rent-free in your heads, trying to figure out if you're actually people or just divine action figures with delusions of free will. The Dark Urge is trying desperately to forget who they were. Bal's custom-built murder machine, body hijacked for violence. And Shadowheart, she's trying desperately to remember who she was before Shar factory reset her into a cult asset. You're both fighting for personhood, just coming at it from different ends of the trauma table. Mechanically and narratively, you both lose control of your bodies. I mean, Durd's right, he gets the murder zoomies. The game, literally, yanks the controller out of your hands and makes you stab people in their sleep. As for Shadowheart, she has her hand taser that zaps her every time she considers even having a personality. You both know what it's like to have your body weaponized against your will. Very few can meet you at this depth. Gale thinks he's got problems, but my brother and Mistra, you fucked a goddess and were so needy, she had to nerf you with a magical restraining order. Shadowheart didn't consensually install her own system taser. Hers was mandatory cult equipment. You spedran divine consequences by lusting for forbidden knowledge. She got hers for existing in a cult. Slightly different energy, mate. The Nightsong altar and Bal's temple are parallel exams. Shadowheart is basically, do I become the perfect disciple and kill Aelin, or choose mercy and risk losing everything I've been told I am? And Dirge is about, do I become the monster Daddy Dearest designed me to be, or do I choose literally anything else and probably die? It's the same test, just different rooms. Do I stay the weapon, or do I choose to be something else? If you both chose redemption, she becomes one of your strongest anchors. She has lived through divine conditioning and walked away. She watches you, sleepwalking into murder sprees, and does not leave. That's a different level of acceptance that most people would offer, don't you think? Personally, I think the bitch is fucking crazy. But both can be right. You aren't each other's fixers, though. You're each other's witnesses. You both saw the worst versions of each other and just stayed anyway. She looks at you, covered in blood head to toe, your hands shaking, and goes, yeah, I get it. My hand used to electrocute me for having hobbies. We're both a mess. Wanna maybe fuck the feels away? But if you both go full evil, you become the most pants-shittingly nightmare-inducing power couple in all of fucking Faerun. You're both god champions of murder and loss, respectively. Your idea of a date night is, what if we made it everyone else's problem? You're now the final boss of someone else's campaign. Either way, Dark Urge Shadowheart takes the romance from sad goth girlfriend to a thesis on free will, violence, and whether you're anything more than your god's last bad decision. You both saw each other at absolute rock bottom, murder hobo and cult survivor respectively, and honestly, that's beautiful. Just two emotionally shattered weirdos holding hands, like they both didn't just spend the last few months as divine murder puppets. Look at us being normal. We're so good at this. And that makes Shadowheart our first S tier, because she is one of the most well-written, thematically tight, emotionally devastating romances in this game. She has got flawless character development, perfect plot integration, and a romance arc that feels like you earned it by sitting through her emotional dissertation on trust issues. But she's not a perfect 10, because who is? You have to suffer through her Act 1 prickliness. Her romance content peaks in Acts 1 and 2, and by Act 3, you're coasting on the "we did it, we're together now," rather than getting a ton of new romantic scenes. But if you stick it out, you get the most rewarding slow burn in Faerun. A partner who chooses herself first and then chooses you. And a woman who will absolutely commit war crimes for you whilst holding your hand and asking if you're okay. Would deprogram from a murder cult again. There you have it. If what you want is grown up, emotionally complex, horny but make it meaningful slow burn, where your partner actually puts in the work to unfuck themselves whilst you stand there like an overqualified emotional support himbo, she's S tier, baby. Just don't go in expecting clean. The romance is sacred, messy, and occasionally requires a feelings talk. But fuck it. You're playing Baldur's Gate 3. If you wanted emotionally uncomplicated basic bitch romance, you'd be nerd-rizzing indie dating sims. This is the big leaks. Go get your goth cleric. She's earned it. You've earned it. And speaking of earned it the hard way, if you're enjoying this deep dive, do me a favour. Give us a like and a subscribe. We've got a whole lineup of companions to tear apart, and it only gets messier from here. Next up, we're doing Lizelle. If you thought Shadowheart was prickly, strap in, okay? We're about to dissect the Githyanki warrior who thinks "I love you" is pronounced "you are a sufficient battle partner for mating purposes." That's gonna be a fucking trip. Toad out.